the Bible, but the Holy Spirit showing you.
Well, praise the Lord.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, Father. So we're discussing freedom from the curse through the cross today, and it's part 2. So I just wanted to go over some other sources of curses that people don't usually see. We don't see our need to be free until first we understand the way that these things have come. And another specific source of a curse is men who speak, or men or women who speak on behalf of God as God's mouthpiece. Exodus, Joshua 6.
26.
Then
Joshua charged them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Lord who rises up and builds the city of Jericho. He shall lay its foundations with his firstborn, and with his youngest he shall set up its gates.
Right. So after Israel had captured and conquered Jericho, this curse came upon King Ahab. And it's found in 1 Kings 16:34. It actually did come to pass 500 years later.
1 Kings 16?
16, yes.
34.
Verse 34.
In his days, Hiel of Bethel built Jericho. He laid its foundations with Abiram, his firstborn, and with his youngest son, Segub. He set up its gates according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken through Joshua, the son of Nun.
So, curses are self-perpetuating until someone does something to cut them off. This is a perfect example here in this scripture. Another example would be 2 Samuel. I think we went 2 Samuel 1:21, and you can read a few more verses in context with that, right? I want us to understand the intense grief that David felt here. It wasn't merely just that Jonathan was his dear friend, or even that Saul had been killed, but it was the triumph of the idol worshippers here.
Then David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son, and he told them to teach the children of Judah the song of the bow.
Right.
Indeed, it is written in the book of Jasher, the beauty of Israel is slain on your high places, how the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, and lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for the shield of the mighty is cast away there, the shield of Saul, not anointed with oil.
So, the cause of David's intense grief wasn't just that Jonathan and Saul were killed. It was that the gods triumphed, and whenever a nation fought, it was looked at in a way that their gods, it was the gods that were fighting each other. And
it was warfare in the
yeah,
natural
yeah.
and in the supernatural.
And in the supernatural. And David was grieving because their God seemed to triumph over the true God. I mean, they were idol worshippers, right? These were an idol worshipping people. And when they found the bodies of Saul and Jonathan, they mutilated them, they cut off their heads, and they placed them, on the city wall.
Of course, that was common practice.
And proclaimed it in all their temples. It wasn't just on the wall. They went into all their idol temples and they proclaimed their win, their victory. And in these days, when these nations were fighting, it wasn't just merely fighting against each other, like you were saying. It was their gods that were fighting. So very important here.
Can I just add? In First Samuel, God is trying to teach the children of Israel something. They believed, like the rest of the nations, that God was going to war with the other gods. And he had already said so in the Exodus. He had gone to war with the gods of Egypt. They understood that. But he was teaching them something else, because if you remember the battle in 1 Samuel 6, where they went to the Philistines, they brought the Ark of the Covenant forward. And the Philistines were afraid.
Yeah.
The Ark of the Covenant is with the Israelites. They thought they were going to be defeated. Well, surprise, surprise, they won. Not only they won, they took the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
And what did they do with it? They put it in the Temple of Dagon. And what happened to the Temple of Dagon when the presence of God was there? Mm-hmm. You remember the story. The statue of Dagon was found face forward in front of the Ark.
Not just once either.
Not just once either. So God's teaching them, that this is not, it's not what you think in the supernatural. Just because you may see a seeming defeat in your life, God will always triumph.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So David said, "Let there be no rain, no dew, no fields of offering." And those words were pronounced about 300 years beforehand. And I did a Google search, and I found, the Mount of Gilboa is still in places barren. The mountain, they went around planting trees on all the mountains, but when it came to Mount Gilboa, none of the trees would grow. Well, very few of the trees would grow. So this curse is still in operation today, centuries later.
Especially if you can see it on Google Earth.
After the Jews returned, and they planted all these trees all over the mountains, but this one mountain. Another example would be found in Exodus, in 2 Kings 5. The prophet Elijah, when he had been used to bring healing to Nahum. And Nahum wanted to shower him with all these gifts and expensive clothes and all this stuff, right? Okay, read it.
Oh, it was Elisha, not Elijah.
Oh, Elisha.
Now he went in and stood before his master Elisha and said to him, "Where did you go, Gehazi?" And he said, "Your servant did not go anywhere." Then he said to him, "Did not my heart go with you when the man turned back from his chariot to meet you? Is it time to receive money and to receive clothing, olive groves and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male and female servants? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever." And he went out from his presence leprous, as white as snow.
That was a curse. Because Gehazi thought, Elisha's not going to see me, and I'll just bury it. But the Spirit of the Lord showed Elisha, this is the outworking of the curse. The leprosy came upon him. So you may be thinking, well, does God still do this today? Does this God's servants curse in this way today? Well, Jesus caused a fig tree to be cursed, right? And all his disciples, when they seen it, they were amazed because within 24 hours, that fig tree was dead. But he said to them, he says, I do this, And you will be able to do what I did to this fig tree. You will be able to move mountains. We won't get into that,
Well,
but
the example he said,
Yeah.
you can say to this mountain,
Mountain,
be
be
removed in the
removed.
sea, and it will go.
That's right. And he said, and you can do this, the same thing. So we have tremendous power. And it's the power of the Lord on our words. When we speak those words, we have tremendous power, whether for good or for bad. Our tongue. And so other sources of curses are also authority figures over us. People who we're in relationship with, like a husband and wife, a teacher and their student, employers, persons who have authority because of that relationship. And authority is a very unpopular concept nowadays. I mean, people don't like the word authority, but authority is still real, and it doesn't proceed from man, but from God.
I was just supposed to say that.
Say away.
No, that's just, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
All authority comes from God.
From God. Right. A husband over his wife. Parents over their children. We have authority over our children.
And whether we
There
like
is
it,
an order.
and whether we like it, government over the nation.
Government over the nation. Pastors over the flock, over the congregation. They have a certain authority. And a God-given, there's an order.
And there's a way they're supposed to use
That's
that
right.
authority.
That's
there's
right.
a godly way to use authority, and there's an ungodly way. And we have certainly seen it, the examples of the way of authority being used in a very ungodly way in our day and time.
And because of the words that are spoken by these authorities to those that are under them, they have supernatural powers, whether they're blessings or they're cursings. I mean, if you look at the blessing of God in the Bible, you'll see that second to this, that anyone could have over them in their life, the blessing of their parents or their father, right? Especially in the biblical times, it was so important when fathers would lay their hands and pronounce a blessing on their firstborn. They transferred that blessing to them when they were ready to die. They would call their elder sons in and put that blessing on them. And this is still true today. We need to honor our parents, and that comes with a blessing. But we also should seek the blessing of our parents, right? It's very important.
Although you may not always get it.
No, we may not always.
And God is not commanding
and
parents
some of our
that they must bless. Well, they bless their children, they bless their firstborn, but we're supposed to naturally bless. But I know what Anne's, what she's being here. We are to honor, as children, we are to honor our parents regardless of how good or bad they are. I mean, that's a hard reality, but that's what God expects from us.
Well, I know when we were getting married, I sought the blessing of my father for our marriage.
But I married her anyway, even when he said no.
No, he didn't say no. He didn't say no. But I don't think we will enjoy to the fullest the full blessings of God in our lives, without doing this, without honoring our parents,
I agree.
or
Yes.
without always seeking that blessing from our parents. You know what I mean? It's important to have the blessing of your parents. It really is.
If you can get it.
If you can. I mean, some of our fathers, especially the fathers, they're not with us today. But another example would be a husband, over his wife. I mean, she cooks. She loves to cook, but she may not be the best cook. And, they get married and he thinks, oh, great. I have this lovely wife. Now she's going to cook these nice meals for me. But 2 years into the marriage, he realizes, no, she is not a good cook. And what does he do? Out with it. He comes out with it. Wow. This is horrible. You're never going to be able to cook. like, you know what I'm saying?
I know
I mean,
exactly
I'm
what
not
you're
a bad
saying,
cook, so
because I am blessed because my Proverbs 31 wife is an excellent cook.
yeah. But he curses her with his mouth. You'll never learn to cook. You'll always be a bad cook. That as well. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. Genesis 31:30. If you remember Jacob and Laban. I say Laban. That's the French way. No.
And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done that you have stolen away unknown to me and carried away my daughters like captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly and steal away from me and not tell me? For I might have sent you away with joy and songs, with timbrel and harp. You did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in so doing. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. And now you have surely gone because you have greatly longed for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Then Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force."
So Jacob steals away in the middle of the night, with his two daughters. And after Jacob was a ways off, Laban, he comes after him, and he's trying to find him, and he follows him. Was it Mount Gilead?
Where it was.
Mount Gilead. And they had a confrontation. And Laban said,
Mountains of Gilead.
I can understand why you were afraid that I would steal my daughters back, your wives, but why did you steal my gods? And Jacob, he didn't know what he was talking about, because he didn't even know that Rachel stole the gods, and she hid them. And they never did find the gods. But I think Jacob did find. Now Jacob, he didn't know anything about it. His favorite wife was Rachel. Remember that. His favorite wife was Rachel. She's the one that stole her father's gods. Now, that was a very bad thing to do. Very bad thing to do. First, she shouldn't have stolen to begin with, but she stole gods, his idols. And she involved herself in the occult. And in verse 30, Jacob actually pronounces a curse over her. He didn't even know that it was her, but he pronounced a curse. And what happened was 2 years later, she died in childbirth. That was the outworking of the curse that he put on her.
And I think what this passage shows us is that the relationship, it gives us the power that God has put into the act of marriage. The relationship of marriage takes precedence over the relationship of blood, of even blood.
Right.
We are familiar with the verse, the famous verse, "And a man shall leave his mother and father and cling to his wife." What does that mean? That means that the emphasis, the precedence is on that relation. That is the ultimate relationship that a man and a woman can aspire in their lives.
Right.
To share their lives together in marriage. They become one flesh. You're not one flesh with your parents. You're one flesh with your husband. You're one flesh with your wife.
And because he has that authority over his wife, God-given authority, right?
Right.
When he speaks things like, as in this case.
Right.
And this is very real today. Very real today. We may not like it, but it's real. That's the way it is. I mean, God placed certain principles in our lives.
It's the
right?
kingdom of heaven.
In the life of relationships as well.
That's what it means to be a citizen of the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm.
This is what God intended for human relationships.
It's just like the husband who says, "You're never going to be a good cook." Well, I thank God that you've never spoken that over me. And what about a father? He has 3 sons. The first one he's so proud of because it's their first one. And they're all excited and everything goes into that one child. They have a third child. They're kind of getting used to the idea. Or the second child. The third child, he's brilliant, But the third child, and there always seems to be, they're at odds against each other, right? All the time. But that's usually the child you have the most trouble with is probably the most
The one that's most like you.
like you,
Yeah.
And the parents, if you pick on that one child, that's the one that's most like you. And so the father says to this second son, you're never going to succeed. You'll always be a failure. You'll never make it because this child seems to be very normal, very not normal, not like the other two. So he pronounces these things, and never pronounce those things over your children. Never pronounce those things. You're going to be a failure, or you're good for nothing, or whatever, or you can't do anything right. Never pronounce those things. Another example would be if you find yourself, you're 50 years old and you're still having acne, well, it's like a father who speaks over her daughter. She's trying to get ready for school. Every morning he has to drive her to school. But this one morning, she's a little late, so he gets a little frustrated. And the things that come out of her mouth can be curses.
In frustration, yes.
Yeah, in frustration. He speaks over her and he says, you're up there again putting that stuff on your face. I mean, this is a 16-year-old girl. 50 years old, still struggling with acne because her father said, you're always going to have acne. You're always going to have trouble with your face. You're always going to have these issues. And ta-da, and then she's constantly struggling with her acne. That's another example. What about teachers over their students? And I've certainly heard this growing up. A teacher has a pupil who isn't quite smart, they don't know how to spell. They don't know how to spell very well, or they're not good in math or something. And she says, you know what? You're stupid. You'll never succeed. And you just don't try hard enough. Like, why can't you be like so-and-so over here?
Yeah.
And the result is a person who always thinks they're dumb, or always thinks they can't make it, or just gives up because this is the authority that's spoken into their life, and it's like, well, why bother? Because I'm not smart anyways, kind of thing, right? And it's the authority behind all of these statements that makes them powerful. And there's even a demonic element to them.
Component to it. Yes.
Yeah, because it says in James 3, well, if you want to read that, James 3, 14 and 15.
Didn't mean the asterisks there, branches.
If our attitudes are wrong, right, and our actions are wrong, well, what's going to come out of our mouth? These negative words.
But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. The wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic.
Mm-hmm. It's like when I was growing up, my dad used to always tease me. He'd say, I never caught on until how many years later about the whistling tea kettle? It was, what?
Well, it's about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago.
And my mom had this whistling tea kettle, and I used to hear this whistle go off all the time, right, from the steam. And my dad would say, "Oh, there goes that whistling tea kettle." He always told me it was a bird
Outside.
So all these years, I thought it was a bird. But I was thinking about that. I'm thinking, this is a great example of you put the kettle on the stove and the water's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And the moment the steam comes out, there goes that whistle, right? The whistle begins. And it's like the curse. There's only one way to prevent that whistle from coming out that top. And how is that? You take the kettle off the stove before it boils to that point. So let's say a parent or a teacher or a father or mother, or, they're getting more and more angry. They're getting more and more frustrated. And if you don't take that kettle off, the steam is going to come out and the whistle is going to come out with it. Those words, those curses. It just keeps boiling and boiling inside. It's like someone sitting in traffic, and they're waiting and waiting if they're not very patient, and they're getting angrier and angrier. And before you know it, out it comes. I wished I'd never taken this highway, man, this whatever. It's these words, self-imposed curses. That's the most common area.
Yeah.
I'm so stupid. Why did I take this highway? I could have went this way. I could have went around all this and I wouldn't have to wait for 4 hours. That's stupid. No, you're not stupid. You didn't know, right? Watch your words. We pronounce curses on ourselves that way. There's an example in Genesis 27. And you may want to read a little more there. The story of Isaac going to bless Esau. Perfect example of how Rebecca pronounced a curse over herself.
Where were you starting?
11.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Unless you want to go further.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
11.
I'll read down to 13 because I think that's important.
Okay.
So it's 11 to 13. And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "Look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself, and not a blessing." But his mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me."
So she encouraged, Jacob to fool his dad, to fool Isaac. And Jacob, he was reluctant at first, but he gave in. But those words, she took on herself the curse that would have been to Jacob. I mean, it was a self-imposed curse that she put on herself.
And it came to fruition because
yes,
when
it
Jacob
did.
fled from Esau, she never saw him again.
So the end of the chapter, we see in verse 46, in the last verse, you'll find that Rebecca was very negative about herself. In other words, she's, well, just read it.
46.
This is, my sister said, drink lots of water, so I'm drinking water.
And Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth like these who are the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me?"
She says, in other words, I'm tired of living. I'm tired of living. And that's a typical statement today of somebody who's under a curse. I don't want to live anymore. Or I'd be better off dead. Don't ever say those things over yourself. Don't speak those things. Never permit yourself to say that. Don't make these negative statements over yourself. I don't care what's going on in your life. Don't pronounce those things in your life, because you can be sure that Satan's around and he's listening, and he's going to be whispering and encouraging it and saying, yeah, why don't you? Like your life is worthless anyways. Like, why? And he's going to speak those things. You're just inviting the spirit of death is what you're doing. I mean, it doesn't take many invitations. Psalm 118 verse 17, that's a counteract.
Yeah, this is the antithesis.
If you speak those words, repent and say this over yourself.
"I shall not die, but live, and declare the works of the Lord."
Amen. But this is what Rebecca was saying, you know? In other words, I'm tired of living. And we need to revoke those negative words over our lives. And I always wondered, you know, in when Peter was denied the Lord 3 times, and then later on, Jesus asked him 3 times, "Do you love me? Do you love me?" And each time Peter said yes. You know where that's found?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at it
Maybe you
right
can read that.
now. I can. And it is.
And this was by the Sea of Galilee, after Jesus had resurrected.
So
He pulls him aside and he has a personal talk with Peter. He says, "Peter, do you love me?" And he said it 3 times. And I'll just let you read it.
And I'm going to read, okay, to 19. All right.
Okay, to 19.
So, we're all familiar with this verse, with this episode. So when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said, "Feed my lambs." He said to him again a second time, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said, "Tend my sheep." And he said to him the third time, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep."
Now, I think personally the reason why Jesus had him do this, because he had to revoke the 3 times the negative statements that he made before the crucifixion. Very interesting. And I think we should say Psalm 118:17.
We just did.
I think we should all say it together.
We should, shall we?
Just say the part, "I shall not die but live."
I shall not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. And let's read 18. The Lord has chastened me severely, but he has not given me over to death.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're just driving this thing home, okay? Also Jesus, when he was standing before Pilate, what was said there too as well, pronouncing a curse?
Oh, yes.
Matthew 27, verse 24 and 25. This is real. This one is like really
and I think it's important that we
very important. Very important.
Understand what's being said here. Okay.
Pilate wanted to release him.
When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that a tumult was rising, or a riot, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it." And all the people answered and said, "His blood be on us and on our children." That is a very, very
This is a self-imposed curse.
A self-imposed curse. Before she says anything more, please, this is not the root of anti-Semitism. This is not excuse for anti-Semitism. Yeah. Anti-Semitism is unbiblical, and Israel is still, the church has not replaced Israel. For those of you that believe that is not what the Bible teaches.
That's what I wanted to mention yesterday. Yes, we are not spiritual Israel.
Paul's argument through Romans 9 to 11.
We don't agree with that.
Is that, yes, the church is here, but we are not here to replace. Just like Jesus didn't replace the law, the church doesn't replace Israel. And with the second coming of Christ, Israel will be gathered again into the bosom of God, into the bosom of Abraham. But that's what the reason it's taken 2,000 years is because the people themselves spoke this curse with the blood of Christ. We all talk about, we as evangelicals know the power of the blood of Christ. Yes. We say blood for healing and the blood for doing this and doing that. And yet, here is the blood being used as a curse upon themselves. If the blood is not, if the blood is efficacious for healing and for salvation and for sin, then it's efficacious for cursing as well.
And it was a great tragedy of Jewish history.
It is very tragic.
Great tragedy.
Very tragic.
And by that statement, a great strand of tragedy was woven into Jewish history for 20 centuries. 20 centuries. God couldn't protect the Jewish people because of their own words.
Which is why Christ wept at the gates of Jerusalem when he came there. As Luke says, because
their own statements.
you didn't recognize the time of your visitation when God actually came to you.
Yeah.
They will in the end. They will at the end of days when Christ comes again. They will know. They will see him and mourn for him as a son who has been pierced, as Zechariah says.
And I think this is true in our own lives. God can protect us from everything but our own words spoken over us against ourselves when we're cursing ourselves. What are some of the common causes of curses? Unscriptural covenants. Exodus 23:32. These people lived in total rebellion against the living God because of their false gods.
Now the children of Israel are about to go into the promised land, and the Canaanites are still living there, and the Lord is giving them instructions. He tells them exactly what land they will inhabit, and he says, for I will deliver the inhabitants, which would be the Canaanites, of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you.
Right. So if people have false gods, I mean, if you make a covenant with these people, you're just as affected. And one extremely good example of this is Freemasonry. Full of curses that they have to pronounce over themselves. And SH, we were just talking about this. You shared in the chat yesterday morning about your dad, being in Freemasonry, or similar statement to that, I'm sure. So one extremely good example of this is Freemasonry, because a person who makes a covenant with these Masons, especially if your father's involved with it or your grandfather, it's passed down. These curses are passed down through the family members. You're coming into a covenant with that God. Freemasons will tell you that it's all a big secret. There's all these big secrets, in their what do you call it? I call it a cult. But in the 1950s, that would have been 60 years ago?
70 years ago.
70 years ago, there was a book that was published by an Anglican clergy named Hannah called Darkness Visible. No Mason since then has ever challenged him on that book. Not that I know of, anyways. No one has ever challenged him because he exposed all the rites, the secret rites that they had, and the ceremonies. When you become a Mason, I'm not saying when you become a Mason. I'm saying if you're a Mason, you have to pronounce hundreds of curses over your life. And you have to keep them secrets as a Mason. It's a religion of idols.
Well, what happens if you become a lawyer?
A what?
Don't you become Perry Mason?
Oh, please. There's that dry English humor.
It's joke branches.
Huh. Well, then there are curses pronounced by servants of Satan. There are various names for these persons in different languages. In English, they're called witch doctors. In America, they're called medicine men, and on and on and on. You know, it's not even, like I said yesterday, in some countries, there's just rampant witchery going on, supernatural powers, and we can't. Satan has power. I mean, God is all powerful, but we don't do ourselves a service by minimalizing Satan's powers, because he does have supernatural power. I mean, if you're a missionary and you go over to some of these countries, like we were talking about, Haiti, Africa, a lot of these places, Satan is very real there to them, and you can't tell them that he's not real. So we have to be careful that way. And I've heard pastors say, well, if I had that devil right here, I'd kick him right in the face. Like, we don't be talking like that.
That's why we have the image of the devil with red pitchfork horns and pitchforks, because that was the medieval way of ridiculing devil, because it was felt that if you ridiculed a person of authority and power, they would lose their authority and power. It would be nothing that should be afraid of. Satan comes off like a clown in the medieval.
They don't take it serious.
They don't take it serious, and that's the way he likes it.
Yeah. We can't underestimate the power of Satan. That doesn't mean you have to go around being afraid, because our trust is in the Lord. And I had a verse here that I was sharing earlier in Psalm 112:7. He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. Thou shalt not be afraid of the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flies by day. Psalm 91:5. There's so many verses that tell us not to fear. Not to fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. Amen. Do you know where that's found? I can't remember where that's found. Barb would know.
I can try to find it.
Perfect love casts out all fear. He's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Because Jesus said, behold, I give you authority over the power of the enemy. You know, we have the authority and the power to tread on serpents and scorpions. Amen. He didn't say that the enemy didn't have power. He said, I give you authority over that power. Hallelujah. Praise God Almighty. Thank you, Lord. And that's the realistic approach. We take authority over the power of the enemy today, over fear. Where is it?
1 John 4, 18.
Gotta remember that.
There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love. We love him because he loved us first.
That's right.
I'll put that down in case you guys want to read it.
Another thing that comes to mind is the story of Balaam. He was a witch doctor. But King Moab asked him.
No, King.
Or the king of Moab.
Balak.
Yeah. The King Moab. There was no such king. But he asked Balaam to go and pronounce curses over Israel, but the Lord wouldn't allow him. Every time he opened his mouth up, blessings came out.
Hey, those.
That's Numbers
22,
4 to 6.
Is it 22?
Yeah.
22. We're going to read 2 to 6.
2 to 6? Okay.
Now Balak, or Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people because they were many, and Moab was sick with dread because of the children of Israel. So Moab said to the elders of Midian, now this company will lick up everything around us as an ox licks up the grass of the field. And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites at the time. Then he sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, look, a people has come from Egypt. See, they cover the face of the earth and are settling next to me. Therefore, please come at once. Curse this people for me, for they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them out of this land, for I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed.
And this still happens today in a lot of tribal societies today. They call on people to pronounce curses on other people. If they're having an issue or an argument, or there's a big split going on, between two friends or church members or whatever, they still go to these witch doctors today, and they get them to pronounce curses on these persons. And there have been cases where these people actually die. They go to the witch doctor, and he performs some ceremony, and they go back to find this person dead. Very, very real, and we need to take this very serious. Very serious. Not only is your tribe fighting another tribe, but their gods are fighting other gods as well. In the spiritual realm, this is going on. And if you can get the victory in advance, you win the battle. So they go to these witch doctors, and they proclaim these curses. And you look at the conflict between David and Goliath. It was they weren't necessarily fighting each other. They were in the natural, but it was their gods. And Goliath said, "Am I a dog?"
So the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Mm-hmm. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied.
Right. Another way a curse can come. Deuteronomy 7, 25 and 26.
Deuteronomy 7.
Anything to do with the occult will automatically put you under a curse. Anything. Any kind of witchcraft, any kind of necromancy, tarot card reading, tea leaves, horoscopes. Don't even dabble in that stuff.
You shall burn the carved images of their gods with fire. You shall not covet the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it for yourselves, lest you be snared by it. For it is an abomination to the Lord your God. Now shall you bring an abomination, nor shall you bring an abomination into your house, lest you be doomed to destruction like it. You shall utterly detest it and utterly abhor it, for it is an accursed thing.
Right. So even when you bring something into your home, it could be an innocent object. I had this candle once that I bought, I think it was at the flea market. And it was a beautiful candle. It was pretty big. And in it was carved all these faces. It was just very detailed, and I love detail. And all these faces from the bottom to the top, all around it were these faces that were carved in it, in the wax. And I didn't think much of it, but my girlfriend came over and she said, Anne, I just sense something's not right. And as soon as she laid eyes on that candle, she said, that's it. Something's not right with that candle. I just sense something over that candle. And right away, as soon as I got rid of it, the atmosphere in the house lifted. The heaviness left. But we bring things in through objects, through the movies we watch, through magazines, books, music, CDs. Most of the music in today's world is not worth listening to. Get it out of your house. Any kind of secular music, especially rap music, a lot of stuff not worth listening to. And I'm being right upfront about it. A lot of it talks about killing people, murdering, illicit sex, all kinds of stuff. You don't want to be bringing that stuff in your house. As far as movies, I know some movies, I've actually watched interviews of people who created these movies, and they said that they got some of their ideas from actual demons.
From the occult.
From the occult, being involved in the occult. And they saw these creatures, right in the room. And this is where some of these characters came about from. They were actual demons. When you have stuff like that in your house, it's bound to attract Satan, and it gives him full legal access. So my suggestion is to go around our homes, and which I had to do. I had to break these things off in my own home. Go through our homes and check, what do we have in our homes? Because if we're feeling that heaviness, or there's things going on in our home, alienation between, our children, and all these things, arguments and fighting and contention, there is an area, I'm sure, where Satan has been allowed legal access. Check your children's rooms. Look for things. Wall hangings, paintings, anything personally that promotes dragons and stuff like that. I wouldn't be hanging that, because who does the dragon represent in the Bible? Satan. Stuff like that, right?
The great dragon.
Right.
The Revelation.
So, sometimes if your children don't sleep well at night, that may be an issue. Some of the video games they're playing, right? Very demonic, like Minecraft and all these Dungeons and Dragons used to be big, in the 80s, 70s?
80s and 90s still is.
80s, yeah. Yoga. Do not get involved in yoga or Zumba. They have these sessions in your church, in churches nowadays, where they're doing these exercises. Yoga in church? No. That's an oxymoron, personally.
Yeah,
right?
because those are disciplines
of Eastern
in Hinduism that are supposed to invoke the presence of the Hindu
spirit
gods.
And stuff, right? So
exercises.
These are superstitions too, like rabbit foot.
And Paul said, a little exercise is a little benefit. If you want to exercise, right, go for a walk, take a ride, enjoy God's creation.
A little exercise does good, right, for your body.
Yeah. Go on, take a ride on your bike through God's creation and commune with the Lord.
Now, I take this teaching very serious. It's not very popular. As I said before, it's not popular in the churches. People don't seem to want to take a stand on it. They don't want to take a stand on it. And even though through Scripture, we can see that it is scriptural, but people don't want to take a stand on it. Well, I'm taking a stand on it. And I'm believing and I'm trusting God that there is going to be a great release. There are going to be things broken off in our lives through this teaching, and God's going to show us things that are in our homes, that are in our lives. These generational things that have been passed through the generations. So, Lord, today I pray that as we go about our day, Lord, that you would open our understanding, open our eyes, and begin to show us areas in our lives, Lord, where we just keep falling short, Lord. We just can't seem to have that discipline. Areas where we can't rise above, even though your word clearly says we can. but we keep falling short. We keep falling short, Lord. I pray, Lord God, that you would show us, Lord, our words and what we're saying over one another, even in the body of Christ. How are we speaking to one another? Are we cursing or are we blessing? So, Lord, open our eyes and speak to us, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that as you begin to show us, Lord, that we would recognize these areas as he begins to show us. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray this, Lord, that true repentance would come forth, that we would renounce these things, Lord. Because your word says that as we submit to you, when you show us things in our lives, and we submit it to you and we give it to you, that the enemy has to flee.
Yes.
We resist the enemy. We commit it to you and we resist the enemy, and he has to flee, and he has no more charge in those areas. So, Father, we thank you today for this, what your Spirit has shown us. And we bless your holy name.
Yes, Lord.
We bless your mighty name. You're more than able to do above and beyond all that we ask or think, Lord God, in our lives today. Amen.
Yes, you are, Lord.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
We'll close in one song. And tomorrow we will deal with how to be released from all this stuff. Hallelujah. God is a good God. Amen. God is a good God. Thank you, Lord. I thank you, Father. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, you're worthy, Lord. You're worthy, worthy. Hallelujah. Oh, I knew something was weird there. Didn't have my guitar on right. Oh, we bless your name, Lord. A couple years, well, not a couple years, it was quite a many years ago, my mother and I, we went through this program that we both broke off curses, generational curses. And my daughter went through the same thing, and my son did the same thing. You know, we took this very serious, and the Lord just broke things off of our lives. And now my mom and I have a wonderful relationship. We received deliverance, you know, and these things broken off of us, and we give God praise. Give him praise for showing us, hallelujah, the hindrances. Oh, praise your name, Lord. Just sing, let's just lift the name of the Lord up. How great is our God. How mighty you are, God. How majestic you are, Lord. Oh, you're great and mighty, God, in our lives. How great is our God. Oh, everybody sing. How great is our God. And oh, see how great. Oh, how great is our God. You're great and mighty today, Lord. Sing that again, how great is our God. Oh, sing with me, how great is our God. Oh, no, see how great, oh, how great is our God. The splendor of my King, for you're clothed in majesty. Let all the earth rejoice. Let all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light. Oh, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, trembles at his voice. Oh, how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. Oh, we'll see how great, how great is our God. Age to age he stands. Yes, age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. Oh, the Godhead three in one. Oh, Father, Spirit, Son, the Light and the Lamb, Light and the Lamb. We sing how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. Everybody will see how great is our God. Name above all names, name above all names. Oh, you're worthy of all praise. Oh, my heart will sing. Oh, how great you are. Name above all names. Oh, name above all names. You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. Oh, my heart will sing, how great is our God. Will you sing that chorus one more time? How great is our God. Sing, how great is our God. Oh, see how great, oh, how great is our God. Oh, you're great and mighty. You're great, oh, the greatest God. Lord, the only one, the only true God. And sing how great you are. Great you are. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Well, bride, beautiful, beloved branches, go out and be a wonderful blessing to your neighbors. Speak those words that are kind and loving, that exhort and edify. Hallelujah. In Jesus' mighty name. Shine, Jesus, shine through each and every one of us, Lord. We bless your mighty name. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for your truth. Thank you for the truth, Lord, that you've shown us today.
Yes, Lord.
Jesus' mighty name. Bye. We love you, and thank you for joining in this morning. Bye-bye.
Until next time.
See you in the morning.
See you in the morning.
And if you read the Bible with the Holy Spirit showing you,